Is Tyson Fury amongst the very greatest?
First of all, he's definitely among one of the most interesting. Occasionally he'll say things that I'm like, why did you say that, about somebody or whatever. But it's all part of Tyson Fury and what makes him one of the most interesting fighters I've ever seen.
Welcome to the Battle of the Baddest podcast, episode 5. We are joined today by two legends, true legends of the sport, in the promoter Bob Arum, who's live from Las Vegas from his offices, and also one of the greatest announcers of all time, if not one of the great voices of boxing, the one and only Michael Buffer. We've got those two legends, and we've got two young stars, so let's get ready to rumble. Hey, Bob, how you doing? Welcome to the studio, the Battle of the Baddest podcast.
Thank you, man. It looks impressive.
How are you, first of all?
Good, terrific. Feel great.
Absolutely. It's great to see you in your offices on Pilot Road, Las Vegas. The scene of so many major fights that you've put together over the years. I've got to ask you, first of all, how big, even though it's kind of going left field and it's an MMA king, a UFC heavyweight king against Tyson Fury, how big does this feel?
It's huge because it brings in not only boxing fans, because Fury is recognized by most people as the heavyweight champion, people who follow boxing, but his opponent is from the MMA, who has had a huge success in that discipline. And he has millions of MMA fans who've watched him and seen what a devastating athlete he is.
Tell me, you were over here in London a few weeks back. You met His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, yourself and Frank Warren and George Warren and Brad Jacobs all there with you, well represented Queensberry and Top Rank. What's your take on how big they intend to make this event at the opening of the Riyadh season? I saw you in conversation with His Excellency. It's a developing relationship.
Yeah, and it's almost like a dream because they're making this a huge worldwide event. And to do that, you have to spend considerable amounts of money. And as His Excellency Turkey's told me, the money is no object. It's how they attract people to care about and watch the event. So I'm pumped up. I mean, the undercard was announced today. I think very exciting fights on it, all heavyweights. Frank's and George supplied most of the talent. I think, it's going to be just a great event. It's a must-see event for television. And I think it'll get a huge audience both in the United States and certainly in the UK.
The level of interest in that press conference a few weeks ago, the red carpet event itself, the feel of it all, did it remind you of those big nights in Las Vegas?
No, they've been big and they were very exciting. And when we did it, we thought that nothing could top those kind of events. But they put on in this press conference an event like I've never seen before on a press conference. When money is no object and you can do everything not first class, but deluxe class, you get what they produced at the press conference in London.
I mean, does it rank with all those great fighters you've promoted, of course, the greatest, I think, heavyweight of all time in Muhammad Ali, who you work with, Marvin Hagler, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Does it rank with those kind of figures in the sport?
Well, unfortunately, the only thing that the press conferences with all those greats from the past lacked was His Excellency Turkey, who certainly knows how to do a press conference, particularly when money is no object. So, I mean, where do you ever see a Hollywood person dress the fighters like they were in the big posters for the fight? You know, these outfits were just unbelievable. I mean, the screens, everything. It was truly, you know, I've been around for so many years, Gareth, but for me, I was blown away by what was happening at this press conference.
Let me talk to you about the undercard that's been announced today. Obviously, Fabio Wardley and David Adeleye, who had a little bit of a fallout at the press conference on that Thursday. Two young British heavyweights taking part as the co-main or the undercard. Joseph Parker against Simon Keane. Moses Itauma, who's on the show later. I spoke to him last week. He was kind of hinting then that he's on the card, this young heavyweight who Frank Warren believes could take over the division. I know you believe it's Jared Anderson, your guy, but you've also got, apart from Martin Bakole and Carlos Takam, you've got Arslanbek Makhmudov, the undefeated Makhmudov, 17-0 with 16 knockouts, taking on the Croatian veteran Agron Smakici. Makhmudov looks like a tank in there, by the way.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. We started working with him through our friends, Eye of the Tiger Promotions, who we've gotten very close to in French Canada. And he was supposed to be on the card in Beterbiev title fight with the Brit. Unfortunately, Beterbiev was hurt. And so that fight card won't take place until mid-January.
Yep.
And Mahmoud was looking to keep active. And people are going to be blown away by him. He is so big and so immovable that he's tough for anybody to beat. I mean, he really has impressed me. Now, that being said, he doesn't seem to have the mobility that you would want in a heavyweight. But, that's because we've been spoiled by Tyson Fury, who for a big guy really moves like a lighter weight fighter.
Let's talk about Fury. Obviously, I mentioned Muhammad Ali just now. Is Tyson Fury, obviously he's had huge success with this series At Home with the Furies on Netflix. The 3 Wilder fights, obviously the last 2 in Las Vegas that you were heavily involved in. How do you see Fury in the history of the heavyweight division? Who do you compare him to?
Well, I don't think, that's very, very hard. You can't compare him to anything that I've seen before. In other words, I don't compare him with Ali, although he's a great showman like Ali was. But Ali relied so much more on his boxing ability than Tyson does, because Tyson has much more power than Ali had. And then if you look at another great, Mike Tyson, who Tyson Fury was named after, Mike was tremendously powerful, but not particularly light on his feet. You know, he wasn't, you wouldn't say he was Mike Tyson being a great boxer. What makes Tyson Fury unique is that he's relatively light on his feet for a big guy, and he punches with tremendous authority, like a Mike Tyson.
What about Fury's all-round qualities, though, as an entertainer?
I mean, Fury can go into show business, or maybe he is in show business now. He can certainly go into show business after he retires from boxing, because he's very engaging, he's very entertaining, and you notice something. You know, sometimes when a fighter is entertaining, he can be a little cruel, making fun of his opponents, the way, unfortunately, Ali did with Fraser and Norton. You know, he'd always find a way to ridicule them. Now, Fury is just just a funny guy, you know? I mean, you listen to him forever because he's always going to come up with something that's going to make you laugh. And so, you know, in addition to being a tremendous fighter, Fury is a great entertainer. There's nobody close to him as far as being an entertainer in boxing.
Do you think Fury's the biggest star in boxing at the moment? Would you name at the very top?
I wouldn't. There's no question that he is. I mean, he may not be pound for pound the greatest boxer, but he's certainly the most entertaining, and he's certainly the biggest star, and he's certainly somebody who commands the biggest purses.
Let me ask you, are there risks? I ask everyone this on the podcast, of course, and so many boxing purists say Francis Ngannou doesn't have a chance against Fury. But has he got to take... You've met Ngannou, you've seen clips of him, I've heard you speaking about it. You've said he's dangerous. Does Fury have to be wary against this guy, not to take him too lightly?
You know, it's more than just watching him on film. You know, he's here in Vegas now, and they got Francis's, and he's been working out with some of our young fighters. Mike Tyson's been coaching him. Now, that being said, he could use a little bit more experience as a boxer. But when he gets in there, these guys are telling me they've never been hit like he does. And, you know, it's 16-ounce gloves when they spar. But they say this guy has power that's unreal. So you're damn well right that Tyson Fury better watch out. Not that he shouldn't be able to outbox this guy, but if he starts clowning around or he gets lackadaisical, watch out, because if he gets hit by Ngannou, it's going to be a lot harder and a lot more punishing than Deontay Wilder, who had Tyson down numerous times.
Four times.
I think. Yeah, exactly. So I think that, you know, but Tyson's, even with all the braggadocio and the way he carries on, is not stupid, and he has Sugar Hill with him, and they're not going to underrate Ngannou, because if they do, you could see one of the greatest upsets in boxing history.
You mentioned there about Sugar Hill Stewart in Tyson Fury's corner in his training camp. Obviously, he's his trainer. What do you make of Mike Tyson being involved with Ngannou? Does that bring benefits with it?
Well, you know, I didn't know, because I never saw Tyson attempt to train a fighter. but I've been peeking in on their on the work that Ngannou's been doing, and Mike Tyson is really active, coaching Ngannou, and obviously Mike Tyson knows boxing, so he's been really active in preparing Ngannou, and Mike knows what he's talking, knows what he's doing, and so I think Ngannou made a really good decision bringing along Mike Tyson.
One of the things that boxing purists and all of us want to see as well is an undisputed title fight at heavyweight at some point in the future. Is your optimism, obviously they all have to win, but is your optimism that we'll see an undisputed title fight, all being well, between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk in the next, say, 6-7 months?
I think a lot quicker. In talking with His Excellency Turkey, they want to do that fight if Tyson Fury comes through uninjured at the end of October. They want to do the unification fight before the end of the year in Riyadh. And I think Tyson Fury is amenable to that, assuming that he gets by unscathed fighting Ngannou.
So would that be inside this year? So that would only give him 8 weeks in a training camp for Usyk.
But again, what about the weeks he had training for Ngannou? In other words, he's gotten himself into shape. Now he has to use those 8 weeks or so to train against the style that Usyk will present. So I think it's very, very good for Fury not to take a long break, but to go right into this big fight, assuming he's successful with Ngannou and not injured, with Usyk. So I think that's a plus for Tyson Fury.
Well, it's great news if that does happen this year, but the Riyadh season lasts 5 months, so it could be potentially slightly into next year as well, yes?
Yeah, that's possible. But again, I'm telling you what the tentative plans appear to be.
Well, I see a lot of crystals behind you on your desk. Maybe the crystals are talking right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe. But again, I'm talking more about what I've been told than what the crystals are telling me.
I was just assuaging that you might have been looking into your crystal ball. If that is the case, that's great news. Just finally on this, how great to have, I think it's 5 heavyweight fights on the card now.
Yeah, I mean, boxing, the era of the lighter weight fight, which dominated the sports for many, many years, seems to be passing to the heavyweights. There's so many really good heavyweights around. And the thing that's really interesting to me is they come from all over the world. So that's going to make heavyweight boxing really, really interesting for the next 10 years with these really monster guys like we've never seen before. You know, a fighter who's 6 feet 4 inches, used to be a giant in the heavyweight division. Now people say maybe he's too small for the heavyweight division. So, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, we've signed the past Olympic champion, Jalilov, I think that's how he called it.
Jalilov, yeah.
Uzbekistan, tremendous talent. The silver medalist, Richie Torres, also a really great talent. We have Jared Anderson. One after another. I mean, really, really great athletes who look like, I mean, I could take the heavyweights that fight for top rank and maybe put them in the NBA and have a basketball team if they could make some shots that could compete, because they're all such giant people.
But Bob, finally, you've been in the sport over 50 years. I mean, and that you've seen so many transmogrifications, adaptations. You've adopted and adapted yourself. Is it fascinating to you to see heavyweight boxing now move away from New York and Las Vegas and Wembley Stadium to the Middle East, to Saudi Arabia? What's your take on that? Is it fascinating for you as a cultural person, as someone that is so aware of the world, the creed, colours, and all those kind of cultures that come with it?
Yeah, I think it's great. It's great for boxing, and it certainly makes it more interesting for me and for the fans, because we never got fighters out of Eastern Europe before. Never. I mean, when I started in boxing with Muhammad Ali, the top 15 heavyweights, 13 or 14 came from the United States, and maybe one came from the UK, and none from. Now, you have to look long and hard to see an American fighter among the top contenders. Now, the reason for that is sort of simple.
Yes.
Because when I started in boxing back in the 60s, professional American football was nothing. They paid the guys maybe $5,000-$10,000 a season. Now they make millions of dollars. So the kids, drift to that sport, and they drift to basketball, which also meant nothing at the time. So we've lost a lot of these big guys to the other sports in the United States. Now you take an Eastern European kid or a Brit, they don't have American football. The Brits particularly don't give a damn about basketball. So a big Brit can't play soccer. He's too big.
Yeah.
So what does he do? He looks to become a boxer. So I think that's one of the reasons why we're getting so many great athletes from the UK, from Eastern Europe, who are going in to boxing. And that's made the heavyweight division so much more robust than it was when I first started, and also so much more international than when I first started.
Bob, it's been brilliant to speak to you, as it always is. We're in another great era of the heavyweights, and we're going to what you always call the Mid-East. Thank you so much for your time today. It's great to catch up with you on the Battle of the Baddest podcast.
Okay, Gareth, it's really a pleasure. And I hope to see you in Riyadh to start the season at the end of October, getting ready for the October 28th showdown, which for me will be very, very exciting.
Brilliant, Bob. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you there. Bob Arum there, catching up from his office in Las Vegas. Wow. He has seen so much in his time. Coming up next, Moses Itauma. Spoke to him last week, and he's now on that card. Here at Zhang Joyce, I'm joined by one of the biggest prospects in heavyweight boxing. Frank Warren told me you need to stop thinking about this Mike Tyson record and just win a fight at a time.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm not thinking about it. Like, obviously I want to do it, but like I said, there is no fight unless I win the next one. So I'm literally thinking like one fight at a time, and obviously we can get there, innit?
October 28th, you're going out to Riyadh season, Fury versus Ngannou?
Of course.
You're going to be there?
Of course.
What's the chances of you being on the cards?
High.
We don't know yet, yeah?
Yeah, we don't know yet, but it's high.
You got to come through on Saturday night. What happens in that fight between Fury and Ngannou?
Listen, I feel like Fury will probably win, but like I said, I don't ever write off anyone in the heavyweight division. All it does is takes one punch. We see what Francis Ngannou has done to the guys in the UFC, so it's not exactly a stupid fight, but it does make sense to me.
If he called you in to spar with him for this fight, would you go? Ngannou.
Yeah, 100%. Why not? It's learning, isn't it?
You'd meet Mike Tyson.
Say that again?
You'd meet Mike Tyson.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I'm there, innit? I'm there. Why would I not?
Ditto, would you spar with Tyson Fury for it? Right now?
What, for the
Ngannou?
I'm not orthodox, but yeah, 100%. I'm getting in there. Of course, I would never turn down an opportunity.
What's the difficulty for a right-handed fighter against a southpaw?
It's a difficulty. Because I'm right-handed, I am a southpaw. So, I don't
Is it the angles that you can create?
The styles. Like, obviously, being a right-handed southpaw, it's just like I'm more dominant with my lead hand. So, obviously, I can dictate and control the pace. So, yeah.
Give me a prediction for Saturday night.
Well, my fight. Third or fourth round.
Great to see you, Moses.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Fascinating stuff there from Moses Itama, of course, who will now be on the Battle of the Baddest card on October the 28th in Riyadh. And as he said, who knows who's going to win this fight, but he's picking Tyson Fury. Well, next up, I joined Anthony Yarde, one of Frank Warren's young light heavyweight fighters, and he had this to tell me. Anthony Yarde, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Very good. Good to see you. You've just weighed in. You're looking at a lean 175. Trim.
Yeah, we're ready now, ready to fight.
Always ready to fight. There's always lions in the camp, aren't there?
Lions!
I've got one question for you today. Is there any chance of you fighting in Saudi Arabia in the next couple of months?
In the next couple of months, I wouldn't rule it out. We don't know what. We haven't been offered nothing yet. But again, I would love to fight in Saudi Arabia, 100%.
And there is a big fight in Saudi Arabia on October the 28th. Your promoter, Frank Warren's guy, Tyson Fury against Francis Ngannou. I know you watch all kinds of combat sports. Is there any danger for Tyson Fury against Francis Ngannou?
Definitely. There's always a danger. People always have this thing in their mind of they act like it's not two professionals in there with 10-ounce gloves on. Like, it's a crazy thing to say. Tyson Fury's been down before. And if Ngannou hits him like that, we don't know if he will get up from it. But Tyson Fury is the best heavyweight boxer of this current era. He's proven that, and I just don't see any heavyweight outboxing Tyson Fury right now.
So what you're suggesting is that Ngannou has to jump on him?
100%. Jump on him, swing at him, give it everything. But again, he can't do that now. Maybe before, but Tyson Fury of today can punch. So he can't just be walking in there thinking he's going to overwhelm Tyson Fury. He's got too much experience now, and Tyson Fury he now packs a punch. He's learning how to use his weight.
If Francis Ngannou does win, will it be the biggest shock ever in the heavyweight division?
Not ever. I don't think any shock can override Tyson Berger. But it will be up there. I think it will, because he's a UFC fighter, I think it will be close second in history.
So who are you picking to win?
I'm picking Tyson Fury. But I'm interested to see how it will go, because Ngannou, he's the hardest hitting person in fighting right now, in my opinion. He hits like a horse.
As Anthony said there, Francis is always a danger, and it's crazy to say that he's got no chance at all against Tyson Fury. And I think when he said Trevor Berbick there, by the way, he meant Buster Douglas, who was the man that upset Mike Tyson in Tokyo in 1990. Well, next, I caught up with his trainer, Tunde Ajayi. He had some great things to tell me.
greatest heavyweights we've seen in the last 10, 15 years. I put Tyson Fury that high up the ladder. And so what Francis has is strength on his side, power on his side. So you're not going to win a boxing match against Tyson Fury. And so just go for it. It's literally, as I coined the phrase, roadman science.
Yeah. Roadman science.
Roadman science.
Caveman stuff.
Caveman science, which is that you just put the boxing to one side, the Queensberry rules, and you just take it back to sheer gladiatorial fighting. You know, mano or mano, match him. Let's see what Tyson Fury's got. And so I feel that's the best way. Try to get the fight over early, because I believe it's a 10-round contest. So he definitely needs to get that fight over within 5 rounds. So I would just say apply pressure.
Can this unexpected happen in boxing?
Absolutely. Anything can happen in boxing, heavyweight boxing. No one thought Mike Tyson was going to lose against Buster Douglas, especially after, knowing what Buster, losing his mother, I believe, before the fight. Sometimes it's not always what we as fans are seeing. It's the fact that we have no idea what the preparation is leading up to those two gladiators getting a ring. So who knows? Tyson Fury may not have had a good preparation. Maybe, he's took his eye off the ball thinking, I'm the greatest. And that may just work for Francis.
But what's your prediction?
I'm going for Tyson Fury by points.
Thank you very much.
You got to say Tunde Ajay is spot on there. Roadman science. Go out there, Francis. Be a caveman against Tyson Fury, because that's your best opportunity. So many fighters have said that to me, that early he's going to be so dangerous. You're watching the Battle of the Baddest podcast. We've had one absolute legend on, 55 years in the sport, Bob Arum, already today. Well, this man coming up now has been announcing in the sport, I reckon it's for around about 50 years. The one and only Michael Buffer. Up next. Well, as I said at the top of the show, two legends on with me today. Bob Arum, we've just seen him in his office in Las Vegas, and I am joined by the one and only. He is the voice of boxing and has been ever since I was a little kid. It's the one and only Michael Buffer. Let's get ready to rumble, sir.
You had to throw in ever since you were a little kid, though, right? You had to do that.
Well, I think I was trying to rack my brains earlier and wondering how long you've actually been doing this.
41 years.
Wow. Wow. How did it begin?
I lived in Philadelphia, born and raised, and Atlantic City was an hour away. And in the 70s, Atlantic City came up with casino gambling. And one of the things they decided to do to bring in gamblers, players, and up the body count is to have boxing. And they started to have the fights there 2-3 times a week, and good fights, big fights, world title fights broadcast on national TV in America. And as a fight fan, I used to watch all the fights, and I'm watching with my oldest son, who at the time was like about 13 probably. And a ring announcer gave a split decision where he gave the first two scores and you knew who won. It took away that drama from when you get to the final score and you say, and the winner by split decision, with a pause, and it's real dramatic. And my son said, I hate when that happens. Dad, you could do that. And at the time, I think he assumed because I was making a living as a model and I was doing TV commercials and that sort of thing. And he figured it was all pretty much the same thing. And I thought, well, it's a great idea. I wouldn't have to pay for a ticket to sit and watch the fight. And I got my foot in the door and it just took off.
Tell me, I know that you're going to be in Riyadh for the opening of the Riyadh season on October the 28th.
Right.
Are we going to get to hear your dulcet tones?
I am scheduled to be there. reservations are made, and I'm ready to go. I think, what is it, like 4 weeks away?
It is indeed.
Yeah.
This is the Battle of the Baddest podcast. We are looking ahead to October the 28th, Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. You'll have seen some upsets in your time, and you have been at many of the very biggest heavyweight title fights and heavyweight fights. Boxing fans are saying, nah, an MMA guy, a UFC champion can't beat a boxing heavyweight champion. Do we need to be a little bit cautious on this?
You know, there's a lot of interesting things about this particular fight. And I know you're probably getting the same heat that I am getting from the purists. And I don't blame them. You know, they're saying like, well, why are you being a part of this? And it's a big fight.
It is.
I mean, you have the heavyweight champion of the world taking on a guy that supposedly is the biggest puncher anybody's ever seen in the heavyweight division. Not the heavyweight division in boxing, but, you know, his punches have been tested, and he can. I've looked at some of these fights where he just nicked the guy in the chin and the guy's asleep. I mean, he has devastating power. And the one thing that I'm really impressed with right now, Gareth, is that he's being trained by Mike Tyson. Now, people say, well, Mike Tyson was a fighter. What does he know about training? What a lot of people don't know is that Mike Tyson was and is a student of boxing. Yeah. When he came up under Customato as a teenager, he would watch, when he was 16, 17, 18 years old, he would watch old fights with this 8mm movie projector at Cuss's place in upstate New York. And he always was a student of the game. You know, and with a fighter of, I guess Mike had close to 50 fights in the ring. He knows about training. He knows about conditioning. He knows about getting your mind set for a fight and a lot of things. I mean, fighters don't always make great trainers. They make horrible referees, that's for sure, in the history. But they don't always make great trainers. But that doesn't mean there haven't been a few that know what they're doing. And I think Mike training Ngannou is a very interesting aspect of this fight.
Absolutely. Tell me, if you look at heavyweights that you've covered in your time, that you've pronounced, announced, emceed, is Tyson Fury amongst the very greatest that you've ever seen?
Without a doubt, he's among, first of all, he's definitely among one of the most interesting, charismatic, and fun guys to be around. That's for sure. But as a fighter in the ring, his size, his unbelievable defensive abilities, he has an amazing ability to, you know, move and bob and weave. He has an amazing ability to psych his opponents out. Just ask Vladimir Klitschko that. He has, you know, I don't mean psych them out and make them afraid, but make them cautious, make them think instead of just going ahead and using what they should use. He's clever. He's witty. Occasionally he'll say things that I'm like, you know, why did you say that, you know, about somebody or whatever? But it's all part of Tyson Fury and what makes him one of the most interesting fighters I've ever seen. But in the ring, you know, people like to say, well, what would Joe Louis do against Muhammad Ali, or what would Jack Dempsey do against so-and-so? You know, they like to make those matchups. And it really would be interesting to think about what would Tyson Fury do against anybody in the history of boxing. And there would be a lot of W's there, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Let me ask you finally, as you say, you were part of this huge era in Atlantic City. Then big-time boxing. Yes, it was in New York as well, at Madison Square Garden. Of course, it's a hallowed turf, and the Barclays Center that's become recently. But Vegas became the place. And in some ways, it still is for very big fights. But we're moving towards the Middle East now with big fights. And it looks like There's an era change, a defining change. Does it fascinate you that we are able to take boxing, big-time boxing, and I mean the biggest boxing, into a different creed, a different culture, with different colours? Isn't that part of the richesse of boxing, that we're able to do that?
Yeah, the thing about being able to have perhaps a new capital of the big fight in boxing go to happen in Saudi Arabia. Part of that is because of this world of global communications. I can remember going to, before we had pay-per-view and streaming, you had to go to closed circuit television in a theater, in the 60s to watch Floyd Patterson and Sonny Liston and Muhammad Ali. And of course I did, as a loyal fan, as a teenager.
Well, but Ali and Frazier was CCTV in cinemas and everywhere. It was sold out.
But the picture, the screen, it usually was distorted and blurry, and just like looking at old film today or newsreels. It's such a difference now. Everything is a perfect picture, and you can put a fight in a massive stadium and arena, and because of the large screens, everybody gets to see the fight. In the old days, it was just like, well, I was there. I couldn't see it, but I was there, and that's pretty exciting from the nosebleed seats. And today, the ability to come up with financial backing for a super fight, the victor seems to be the one that can afford to do it, and at the same time make sure the whole world sees it. And that right now, this is why we're going to Riyadh in a few weeks for this particular fight.
I cannot wait to hear you say, well, I'll see you there all week anyway, but I cannot wait to hear you say, for the thousands in attendance and the millions and millions and millions watching around the world, because I think it's going to be very big, this. It's great to see you, Michael. Thank you so much.
Great to see you. And when I see that, I hope a lot of the things I'm seeing on social media where people say, nah, I don't want to see it. I think when they hear more about it and they see what it looks like in the training camps of both fighters, I think we're going to win them over, and they'll get to see a pretty outstanding event.
I think you're absolutely right. They'll all be hovering over that button at home to buy the event. There's no doubt about it.
Okay.
Great to see you, as always, looking fantastic. I got your age wrong the other day. I apologize. I know you're still only, what's it, 58, the same age as me?
79 in a few weeks, and still feeling good and loving my job.
You look amazing. You always sound amazing. It's great to see you. Michael Buffer, thank you so much.
Same here. You take care now.
For the millions and millions watching around the world, we will hear that great voice announce Tyson Fury against Francis Ngannou in Riyadh at the opening of the Riyadh season on October the 28th. You've been watching the Battle of the Baddest podcast. Episode 5 is over. My thanks to Michael Buffer, to Bob Arum, and to our other guests this week. We'll see you next week.